Well, here we are at the end of the Christmas season already. It seems to have come and gone so quickly this year, especially here in Buffalo, where there was so much of our celebration canceled or postponed because of the historic winter storm we experienced. So here we are at the Feast of the Epiphany. We don't even get an extra week with the Feast of the Baptism of the Lord next Sunday this year. Instead, we'll be celebrating that feast this coming Monday, and then we'll roll right into the first week of ordinary time. I don't know about you, but here in Western New York, we just didn't get a chance to experience so many of our annual Christmas traditions. We all have our own Christmas traditions, some with our family, some with our friends, and maybe some that we do by ourselves. They might involve sharing special foods, or visiting a place that has deep meaning for us, or watching a movie classic like It's a Wonderful Life. For me, there are two things that I always try to do during the Christmas season. They're kind of related, and they both have to do with this Feast of the Epiphany. One is to read T.S. Eliot's Journey of the Magi, and the other is to listen several times to James Taylor singing his Christmas song, Home by Another Way. Both the Eliot poem and the lyrics of the Taylor song tell the story of the Magi journeying to Bethlehem, and they both focus on how the wise men were changed when they returned home because of what they experienced in Bethlehem. The Eliot poem is, of course, more austere. He writes this: "A cold coming we had of it, just the worst time of the year, for a journey, and such a long journey, the ways deep and the weather sharp, and the very dead of winter." And he concludes, "We return to our places, these kingdoms, but no longer at ease here in the old dispensation, with an alien people clutching their gods." James Taylor is a lot more fun when he sings, "Those magic men, the Magi, some people call them wise, or oriental, even kings. Well, anyway, those guys, they visited with Jesus. They sure enjoyed their stay. Then, warned in a dream of King Herod's scheme, they went home by another way. Yes, they went home by another way, home by another way. Maybe you and me can be wise guys too and go home by another way." Now, every year, we too are invited to journey to Bethlehem. The actual distance from Nazareth to Bethlehem is about 70 to 80 miles if you add in the additional distance in biblical times of avoiding Samaria for safety reasons. Scripture scholars speculate that with Mary pregnant and Joseph walking, it would have taken about a week to 10 days to get there. Since today Bethlehem is administered by the Palestinian Authority, there have been times in recent years that travel there was still very difficult. Things were becoming easier, but then the COVID pandemic hit and shut the city down completely for the last 2 years. Only now is it beginning slowly to open up again. So while journeying to Bethlehem is never easy, perhaps going home is even more difficult if we let ourselves see what really happened there. Now, perhaps one of the most constant images that artists have incorporated into their depictions of the nativity scene in Bethlehem is the source of light in the stable. The light that fills the stable on that darkened Christmas night does not come from the lanterns of the shepherds, from the radiance of the angelic choir, or even from the star in the heavens. The light that fills that room, by extension fills the world, comes from the Christ child, the child lying in the manger, or the child in his mother's arms. It is Jesus, of whom St. John the Evangelist writes, "What came to be through him was life, and this life was the light of the human race, the light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Jesus is not only the light in the stable of his birth, but the light for the whole world for all time. It was this light of Christ that changed those who first came to the stable, including the wise men whom we celebrate today. Now, most of us will probably never journey to the geographical site of Bethlehem, but every year we are called during this season to journey there with our heart. Perhaps we can learn from our Jewish sisters and brothers who every year are called upon to journey to Jerusalem at Passover. Like us, probably many of them will never be able to make the trip, and so they pray the words of the 5th verse of Psalm 84. Happy are those whose strength is in you. In their heart are the highways to Jerusalem. Like them, for most of us, the road to Bethlehem must be in our hearts. Our pilgrimage to Bethlehem at Christmas must be virtual and virtuous. If we open our minds, our hearts, and our lives to the wonder of Christ's birth, then in spite of what is going on in our lives or in the world, we can live with faith, with hope, and with joy. Encountering the living symbol of God's unconditional love for us in his Son Jesus, we can face the future with the confidence that ultimately all will be well. Like the Magi at the stable, we too are changed by the light we encounter, and then we are sent to carry that light into a world so often darkened by fear, by violence, by hatred, by sin. We are called to carry, and in fact to become that light, the light of hope, the light of peace, the light of joy, the light of love. Like T.S. Eliot's Magi and James Taylor's Wise Guys, our journey from Bethlehem this and every year requires us to come back by another way, changed for the better, changed in our lives, changed in our hearts, changed and strengthened to make the world a better place.